Planer is, and an English teacher will be all over me for this, is the safest, most dangerous tool in the shop. Because the way it operates, it's pretty much, you set the height and it's auto feed. Okay, so that's why it's safe. It's put it in, you walk, you say bye-bye, you walk around the other side, say hello, hey. Only if weight loss was that easy. The board gets thinner. Where it's the most dangerous is if something goes wrong. Sleeves. You know, like we were just talking about a second person. You know, if my sleeve gets caught in there until someone hits that emergency stop, bad things are happening. And I hate to even envision that, but the closest analogy is a tree chipper. So definitely dress code is really important with this machine, but keep your hands free of anything that could slide in between. That's why we usually say no hoodies, or at least sleeves up and strings in. Proper clothing. This includes no baggy clothing, eye protection and ear protection, especially ear protection because the planers are one of the loudest machines in the shop. Here we are again. This time we're going to talk about the planer. I want to thank Mr. Freeman and Mr. Gentleman for helping me out on this one. Basically what we can do with a planer and joiner, and you kind of got to use these in combination with each other, but we're focusing at the planer on this series part. This is the way we purchase our lumber, right from the sawmill. It's got sawmill marks on it, sawmill marks on the edge. This is the way your home center sells their lumber.
And charges 3 times more.
Yes. First thing you want to do is inspect the board.
Like for these staples here?
Yeah, we probably should get rid of those.
What other stuff would you need to watch out for? Like big nuts or things like that?
Yeah, this one's got tight nuts on it, so not a huge issue, but like if it's a loose one where it's starting to chip, dry rot, those things will become projectiles. So just like in the rules, you don't want to be standing because I'm in line with the machine, because you could obviously be in firing range. But remember, those small items will chip our blades, ruining the shape of the board.
Now you said this is going to straighten out the board. How much can it straighten it out?
It's actually going to make it thinner. It's going to cut parallel to the opposite edge. You can get away with a little bit of flattening as long as you're not trying to aggressively cut. There's ways to, but that just comes with experience. So if you can see in this board, it's got a little bit of a cup, you know, kind of an arch. So we say arch up, cup down. So go ahead and position it on the table there.
Arch up, cup down.
Arch up. And if you can't see it, you can actually look in the lines of the board. They're curved, but this one's very obvious. So what we do is we call it zeroing the planer, or zeroing the board. So go ahead and turn it counterclockwise to lower the table. That's the height adjustment. There you go. And you want the board to slide in there freely. See how it's still catching, so go ahead and lower it. That's good enough, probably right there. And is it sticking out the back side a little bit?
Yep.
All right, let me turn the vacuum on. The planer produces a large amount of chips and sawdust. Make sure the dust collector is on. And in the Warrior Woodshop, we actually use a separator container, so make sure the lid is on tight and the blast gate is open. If the planer is, quote, throwing up sawdust, as we call it, this is where it's spitting out chips from the front of the machine. For some reason the dust collector is not on or it's not working. Please shut it down and unclog the chute. Since the blades are sharp, do not reach inside the machine even if it's off and unplugged, as you can still contact the blade edge as they are hard to see. Unfortunately, we had a student at his home planer reach inside to clean the machine out while it was running, and as you can see, the result was not too friendly. So to zero out the planer, you're going to go ahead and turn the machine on, and remember from the instructions, we rotate the stop switch, so the light should come on if the bulb's not out. I think this is the one if the bulb's out. Yep, is it out? Okay. Go ahead and turn the machine on. Slowly crank the handle until the door, medium slow. You should grab it and roll it forward. Come on. same thickness. You guys got any idea how we might get all 4, 6, 12, even some of our projects have 16 and 20 pieces. How would you get them all to the same exact thickness?
Height setting the same and run them all through?
Exactly. So both of our planers in our shop have this table set up, and we make it easy for the kids. Put all your boards on this side, send them through, stack them over there. When it's done, you know that's when you adjust the handle.
Now, would you need to test them for which one is the thickest or thinnest to start off with?
That's a good question. That's where you would zero. You would find your thickest one, and that can be done by sight. Half a rotation, or 1/32 of an inch. So science guys should know this. Oh wait, it's not metric. A full rotation is 1/16.
Okay.
That, we tell our kids in class that's the maximum. So we're going to recommend a half a turn. Now that's recommended. If you're working with something like cherry or walnut or a cutting board that's huge, that's the maximum recommended. So if it's thicker, do a quarter turn. Again, back to working speed. Listen to the machine. It talks to you. All right, go ahead and repeat the procedure, send it on through. Walk around, get it. Quiet down.
How do we know when we're going to be done with it? Is this good enough?
Well, we've got one side flat, so now we're going to, or smooth. You can see it's starting to look like the Home Depot lumber.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to flip it over and repeat the procedure. But you got two ways to figure out when to stop. Tape measure, or in our class on each one of our planers, we've got a planer block. This matches our dado blade. So it's kind of important that you check it. Now we don't want our kids having to do this to get it on there. That's going to be hard to put your front, but you don't want it wobbling. The thing is, so how you have the board positioned where? Right in the middle each time. Why do you rotate the tires on your truck?
So they wear evenly?
So what do you think the kid's doing running the board through the middle of the planer is going to do to that portion of the blades?
To all those blades.
So you'll actually get an arc in your blade. So one of the things on our safety quizzes is, does it matter where you send the boards through? And the answer to that question is yes, you need to alternate the locations. Left, right, center, left, right, you know, it depends on what you're using. There's no scientific method, sorry guys. Normally we don't make them shut it down. It's quiet enough that it can run constantly. It looks pretty good. Oh yeah, it's tight.
So how much savings are we talking about cost-wise on something like this? Like this board for a small one is probably like $8 or $10 at the home store. How much would you get it in the rough cut?
$4.
Okay. So if you're doing a decent amount of woodworking,
Yeah.
then it's really
What we tell the kids is you've got to average, it's going to take 20, 25 projects, depending on the size of the project, to pay for the machines. We were discussing before you guys showed up that a good joiner planer setup, you're going to be about $1,000. A benchtop planer is about $500. A garage shop joiner, which we'll get to in the other series, is about $500. What we also tell the kids is buy as big as you can afford, as big as you can power, and as big as you can store. Because the bigger the machine, the bigger the board it can handle, the more weight it has, so the more stable it is. My first joiner was a 4-inch joiner with an aluminum fence. I don't know how, I laugh at that. How did I do anything back then? Yeah, so. Now, there was a lumber mill mark on the top. Where'd that go?
In the dust collector.
Into the dust collector. It's funny how many times kids will go, where's my board? So we remind them to label on the ends because the joiner's gonna take off the edges and I know it sounds silly, but, and then you guys utilize this without even having to be told. Why were one of you on each end of the machine?
So you're not reaching over it?
Not
and
reaching
taking extra
over.
Steps unnecessarily?
We jokingly say we do the 30-minute mile in this class. And they look at me like, 30-minute mile? We actually measured it. You can walk a mile in this shop and not make it more than 15 feet, and it takes you about a half an hour to do it.
Yes.
So one of the things that the kids don't realize, say you two were in our class, you could be doing totally different projects and you could work together on the planer. One, you're waiting in line for him to get done. You just go be his catch guy. But a lot of times, no matter the project, since we're all consistent in thickness, so you could run both sets of boards through, have what we call a pusher and a catcher, or a pitcher and a catcher for baseball. You know, it definitely can save a lot of time. I mean, having to walk through. And then the nice thing is, when you have a pusher and a catcher, as soon as that first board is out of sight, the second board can follow right on through. Where if you're working by yourself, you got to walk around, take it off, because it's going to create a avalanche on the other side of boards.
Something else I've noticed about having a buddy to work on is with any machine is you got one extra set of eyes in case you do something stupid that they can call you out and say, hey, that's back off safety wise.
Most planers have a 12-inch minimum. Some of the projects have 8 and 9-inch boards. So you've got to think about that. It's because of how far apart. Imagine these rollers are inside the machine pulling it through. So you've got to make sure that the board can fit between those two.
So do you want to plane a longer board than what you need so that you get rid of the snipe at the end?
Snipe is when the end of the board raises up into the machine and it creates a little bit of a ramp. And you guys, you can feel it, and you have to really get close. Maybe you want to bring one of your microscopes from your classrooms down to see it. Fortunately, with this machine, with the wider rollers, the extension tables, this is sandable. So it's kind of, we usually say 2 to 3 inches longer for in here. Mr. Martins, you want to tell them about your planer at home?
On mine, I have a bench type planer, and so my tables are a lot shorter. They're about like this distance. I actually get about 3 to 4 inches of snipe on each end of the board. So when I do mine, I actually have to allow for an extra 8 to 10 inches. Firewood.
So if you don't have those extension tables, what could you manually do to help reduce some of that snipe?
Well, watching some YouTube videos, I've heard of people kind of lifting up on the end a little bit as they're feeding it through. And
roller stands, slight lift, so basically manual support. You know, the longer the tables, anything you do to keep it from flipping. Beware of pinch points because of the pressure rollers. Yeah.
So what's just notice this, the feet per minute over here, the speed of the gearbox?
Yeah, basically it controls how fast it pulls the board through. So on the faster speed, it's going to do a rougher cut. We just leave it on I think we got it on the 20. Yeah. It is the faster speed since the board, the boys or shop kids are going to do most of the sanding. I mean, to me, this is nice. I'm not complaining about that finish.
It's not a cutting board, but if it's not for a cutting board project or something
that's nothing a 150 and 220 grit can't take care of. So it just speeds up the process. If you are looking for a fine finish, you would want to adjust that. The guys in our class, we say you don't adjust that without our permission. We want to double. That's what we call setup check process. So typically that doesn't get changed on our planers. The last thing we just do from knowing is which way do you send the board through. For the most part, it doesn't matter, but you're going to get a better cut if you go with the grain. And well, the grain's going this way. Isn't both of them going with the grain? And this one's actually a tough board to call out because it's got the full swirl. But see how this is creating an arch? What I mean by with the grain, you're laying on the carpet at home, you rub your hand one way, the carpet lays nice and flat. You rub your hand the other way, it ruffles all up. That's since trees are round and the carpet stitched that way, it's kind of, so if you end up with a non-smooth surface, like it's pitty, crackly, feels real rough, that means you're going against the grain. So how would I fix that? The next pass,
flip it around one more pass?
Flip it around one more time. And typically this is going to take 4 to 6 passes depending on where you start. Well, we were at 6, we're just about there. So on average, The students are gonna spend 15 to 30 minutes at this machine. There's no, the only way to shortcut it, double the price. You're getting what you pay for. You can, I tell the kids, would you save, if I told you 50% off your project for 30 minutes of effort? You'd definitely say yes.
No, plus if you're looking for those little pits and things, you get to control the quality of your product.
Definitely. You guys got any other questions?
No, what's next?
Well, this wraps up this part of the series on how to process a board. Check out our other ones on how to operate the planer, or that's this one, how to operate the joiner, and then we combine the two of the 6 steps of processing. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell thingy for our other videos so you get notifications. Now go out and make some sawdust.